The great Aristotle said, excellence is not an act, but a habit. What exactly did he mean by that? I think he meant that anything we do repeatedly, over and over, becomes a habit, and that becomes who we are naturally. So what does all this have to do with being good with money, or being good with anything for that matter? Let's explore the one word that can help you achieve the things you want in life. Let's say that we knew a basketball player, and this basketball player, every time he went to the three-point line, 9 out of 10 times he made the shot. I mean, 9 out of 10 times. That's a 90% success ratio. Or a studio musician. I'm in the music business, and one of the things I do is I own recording studios, and sometimes we have these guys or gals that come in to do a session, and we have a name for them because they come in and they'll look at the music, they'll listen to the song, and then they'll say, yeah, just let me do what I do and I'll make a pass at it. And they just nail it. They nail that solo. They nail that part. Perfect take. And I've seen this over the course of, the past 30 years, hundreds and hundreds of times of people who can come in and just listen to it one time and just nail that take. We call that a one-take Jake, right? Or what about a business pro who has to make chess moves for his business, right? He has to make a little move in this direction and, hopefully improve the business structure. He has to make a little move in this direction and hopefully gain some more clients, or a little move in this direction, a chess move that saves the company some money. A business pro that just makes great chess move after great chess move, hopefully is propelling the company in one direction. What do these three different people have in common, from a basketball player to a studio pro to a business professional? They're consistent. They have consistency, meaning their excellence comes from a habit that they can do over and over again, which is very reproducible. Now, when it comes to getting results in life, especially from our finances, the one thing that 9 out of 10 people are missing, if not a greater proportion, is consistency, because they don't have good money habits. And the habits that they do have usually are not only not consistently good, but they are consistently bad. So being consistent is what I feel separates the average person from the outstanding person. See, the average person doesn't have a lot of consistency, at least not in a good way. But an outstanding person definitely has consistency. And that is the one word that can make a big difference in your financial future. Now, some people will say, well, I don't know how consistent I am, but I'm extremely motivated. I want what I want and I go after it on a regular basis and I have motivation. Isn't that better than consistency? Well, motivation is good. I think motivation is what gets you started, but don't confuse it with a habit. Motivation is sort of like a match. When you strike a match, that match burns very, very hot, but it burns out very, very quickly. Whereas consistency is more like a candle. See, you can light a candle, and a candle burns hot too, but it can burn for an hour, it can burn for a day, it can burn for multiple days. Candles last a long time. And when it comes to my wealth, my finances, my health, my relationships, I would rather be a candle and be very, very consistent than be a match and be good at something but burn out very, very quickly. Now, why though? Why is motivation not the answer? Why is consistency more important? Motivation takes time. You're motivated and you have to put a lot of time into something in order to see a real result. See, there's no quick fix when it comes to long-standing results. Things take time. And that's where consistency wins out every time. Motivation also sometimes can come from outside forces. Let's say you wanted to lose weight and you started talking to one of your friends and you went to your friend's house and you saw that they had a gym and they were working out all the time and they were getting in shape and hitting their weight goals. Well, you might leave and now you go home and you say, okay, well, I'd like to design a gym at home, or maybe I'll just get a gym membership and I'm going to watch my diet and I'm going to try and eat right. And what happens? You get very motivated, right? Your friend just inspired you, that outside force. So you go to the gym on the first week, you sign up and you take a class, and then 3 days later you go again and you do another workout and you're kind of watching your diet a little bit, and then at the end of the week you go one more time, and all of a sudden Sunday comes and you step on the scale and you notice that you haven't lost any weight, or maybe you have, but it's only a half a pound. It seems like nothing for all of the effort you do. Well, what happens is when you don't see a lot of results instantaneously, your motivation can evaporate. And also the outside force is not right there, like in your face. Your friend's not right there. You went and paid a visit. I've seen this many times with people with their finances. People will come to town and we'll do a consultation, or maybe some people I know that are looking for some monetary advice will come and sit down in the office, and they'll get to the house and they'll pass one of the cars in the driveway, whether it be the Ferrari or the Porsche or whatever I'm driving that week. Then they'll come into the office and we'll sit down and they'll get all inspired. They'll get very what? Motivated, right? Because they were here and they start to say, oh, I would like to live a certain way and have certain things. So we go over their finances and we come up with a plan, and they're very motivated when they leave, believe me. But then they go back to wherever they're from, whether that is Texas or Utah or Colorado or New England, and they go back to their life and their home and what they're doing every day. And all of a sudden, the motivation just kind of fizzles out. They're not in that environment where they're looking at what they want every single day. So motivation is good at getting you to think. Motivation is not good for action. What's good for action is habits. Habits are great at action. Motivation is good at thought. It gets you thinking. If I want to lose weight, build muscle, or build my bank account, what is the solution? It is focus on discipline. So the very first thing I tell people is you have to get disciplined. You have to focus on discipline. That's what you have to think about. See, motivation gets you started. Consistency will get you across the finish line. And that's what we want. We want to get results that are long-term. And you do that by creating habits consistently. So I focus on discipline. When you get discipline, discipline creates habits. Habits create consistency, and consistency will ultimately create the new you, which is what you're looking for. Maybe right now you would like to lose some weight. Maybe right now you would like to have a fatter bank account or a simpler, smoother life. Maybe you would like to build some muscle or achieve any goal for that matter, but you're not doing it. You get motivated, you get started, you kind of get down the path a little bit, and then off to the wayside it goes. Life gets busy, life gets in the way. What you have to do is you have to set a disciplined schedule and follow that path. So how do I do that? I start by setting small, achievable goals. I like to think about the path I want to be on and what it is that I want to achieve. And then what I do is I just set a small goal, not the end goal of being there. Let's say it was 10 pounds lighter, or, looking like Bruce Lee, or whatever your goal is, or, making $5,000 a month, right? Whatever it is, let's say you're making $3,000, you would like to make $5,000. Well, I might set the goal of this month just trying to find a way to make an extra $50 or $100 a week. So at the end of the month, I've made an extra $400. Well, when you can do that in multiple over and over and over every month, you're going to find out how to increase and get from your $3,000 to $5,000 a month. But you have to first set small, achievable goals. The reason why I say achievable, I throw that in there, is because you have to make sure that it's something that you can achieve, something that you can actually do. Don't set a goal that's so off the mark that you can't do it. We call that a dream, right? Everyone has dreams, and they dream about doing things. They're dreaming about driving a better car, or living in a nicer house, or having a better job. And what really happens down the line, they didn't make it a goal. And they certainly didn't set a small, achievable step that they knew they could get to in a short period of time while being consistent about it. So what happens is there is no consistency. It never becomes a habit. It stays a dream, and they move on. So the first thing is you have to set a small, achievable goal. The second thing I do is I write things down. I write everything down. I carry a little black book around with me, my Almost Criminal Millionaire, daily Bible, basically, and I write ideas down in there. I do write goals, and I figure out how to make them happen by turning it into a step-by-step action plan. So writing things down and somehow seeing it is amazing because it hits you on a completely different level. There's a movie called Hollow Man with Kevin Bacon that I really love. And in that movie, he's kind of a mad scientist, and he's working with DNA strands and trying to figure out how to do this project for the military where we can make our soldiers invisible, right? And, he thinks he's close, but he's not there yet. And he's super tired. And he gets back to his apartment one day and he just starts to relax, and he puts his hand behind his head and He literally looks up, and when he looks up, on the ceiling of his office is written, "You should be working." So he's written something down. And what that's doing is that's creating a trigger. And we're going to talk about that in a second. When he reads, "You should be working," what does he do? He immediately gets back to work because he figures he should be working. And he ends up cracking the code and figuring it out. The point is that when you write things down, you become responsible. You become more responsible because now you see it all the time, and it becomes the word I just mentioned, a trigger. So what is a trigger? A trigger is something that when you reach that point and you see that, or even a certain time of the day can become a trigger. Writing something down and visually looking at it can become a trigger. The act of getting home and turning the key in your door can become a trigger to do and achieve certain things. So when I started running, I used to run a little bit on the East Coast, but we moved out to Vegas and the weather was certainly better. I started running and, first I just wrote down that I wanted to run. Then I wrote down the best time for me to run would be in the morning. I put a little note on my nightstand, and when I woke up, I would see that note of to-dos, and one of the things on the to-do list would be to run. Eventually, I started running in the morning right when I got up. Now, me just waking up is the trigger. I don't write it down. I don't have to look at it. I know that when I wake up, the first thing I want to do is go for a run. I'll put on the pot of coffee to brew, and while that's brewing, I will go for a 15 or 20-minute run. So simply waking up and getting out of bed is now my trigger for that action. So you can create a trigger for any habit that you want to do consistently. You just have to tie it to something, right? So let's say practicing. I wasn't practicing enough, whether it's drums or guitar or any other thing that I need to perform in the studio. What I might do is write it down at first and say, I want to practice when I get home from the shop, or when I get home from one of my businesses, or get home from the office. Literally, the act of putting the key and turning the door and opening would be like, yep, I should go practice for an hour. We have to create triggers. So first I set a small achievable goal. I write the things I want to do down in an action plan, and then I create triggers, which just all they do is create a habit in which I can become a more consistent person. I mean, what is habit? Another word for habit is routine. And if you have a good habit and it equals a routine, well, that just leads you to what? It leads you to the reward, which is what we are all looking for. And that, done consistently, is what shapes your new identity. And that's what we want to do. So believe in the word consistency and start to shape your new you today. I want to leave you with one last thought, and that is that years ago, the great sneaker company Nike came out with a slogan. And I think that this slogan applies here because some people say, well, it's just hard. And where do I begin? When do I begin? Life is just so complicated, and it's become more complex than ever before. And Nike's slogan was pretty simple, and they just said, just do it. And that's what you're going to have to do with consistency. Just do it. Stop thinking about it. Stop trying to rely on motivation. Just rely on consistent habits, and that will get you to where you want to be. And if I was to add one more thing to the Nike Just Do It slogan, it would be start today. My name is Daniel F. Margasa. You are watching the Almost Criminal Millionaire channel. And if you truly enjoy learning about the topic of finance, money, and how to improve the health and wealth of your bank account, then please like and subscribe today for more.